Hello.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, can everyone hear me? Okay. Yeah, so we can begin our lecture for today, and we're going to continue with Asian culture. So remember last time we talked about four mostly East Asian countries. Those were Korea, China, Japan, and any of the countries that were in East Asia. And now we're going to be talking about more of Southeast Asia as well as some parts in West Asia. So the three countries that we're going to be talking about are India, Thailand, and Vietnam. And to give you guys a better sense of where they are, we have the whole map of Asia here, and India is right here, and Thailand is this land right here. And Vietnam is actually right next to it over in this area. Okay, let's start with India as our first country. So we're going to be first visiting India. And hello in Indian is namaste. And that is how it is written and spoken. That's how you say hello in Indian. And then you can see multiple pictures here. And we'll get into each one and describe kind of what the food is. We'll discover what the palace is like. We'll discover what the religion is like and the cities in India as well. Okay, so where is India? Like you've seen before, it's around this area on about the west of Asia. And you can see Ghana is actually right here. And it's not that far away. It's around 12,274 kilometers away. So Ghana's right here and India's right here. You can see how large it is compared to your country and how where it is and how long it takes. And to give you a closer look, this is the shape of India. And then you guys can see the mountains on top, tigers and different cultures that are available. So yeah, this is just a closer map of what India looks like. And we'll first begin with the language. And there are two official languages in India. And the first most common language in India is Hindi, and it is spoken by 56% of the people. And English is also one of the official languages in India. So English and Hindi are both spoken in India, and there are many other variations of languages as well. But down here is an example of Hindi and how it's written, and this is what it looks like. You can see it really is different from English since it uses a lot of weird characters that you guys might not be familiar with, but this is what people write and speak in India. So that was the language. And then now talking about the food and Indian cuisine. So the picture on the left here is dal makhani, and it is actually like a soup where it contains beans and meats, and it's a really, really creamy soup with other herbs around. And also on the right is a dosa, and it's kind of like a crepe. It's more of like a bread and more of like a flour, and it contains a lot of dipping sauce as well. So I'm just introducing you guys some foods that are commonly eaten in India. And there are also tandoori chicken, and on the right here is murd curry. And The left here again is a really famous chicken with rice, and on the right here is a curry, and curry is very very famous in India, as it is known for its chicken curry the most. So I put a picture here, and then curry is basically like sauce over rice, and you guys can notice that, like I talked about last week, many of Asian cuisines include rice as their main food. And then another thing that I noted here is that there are spices. You see those like little green leaves on there. Those are corianders, and those were made to kind of bring up the flavor of different foods. So actually, we're going to be talking about the spices, which is a part of food, and it's added to multiple foods in India, especially to make it spicier, to make it sweeter, to make it smell better, and even to make it healthier. So these are different spices that they add. Again, spices are anything that is just added into the food. Let's say like a small sprinkle of salt, or like a pepper, or a coriander, like I talked about before, like grinded beans. And multiple spices are available in India, and you guys can see a lot of them here. You can just choose one and maybe decide to spray it on your food to again make it smell good, make it spicier, or something like that. Okay, now that we talked about foods in India, let's briefly go over the religion and beliefs. So, Hinduism is a really, really big thing in India, as around like 80% of people in India are believe in Hinduism, and people who are Hindu believes in reincarnation. That is an important thing in Hinduism. And what that means is that people believe that they're born in different bodies after they die, and they don't believe death is the end of their life. They believe their soul is born in another body, possibly anytime in the world, and that is Hinduism and what they believe. And I put a couple of pictures down below, and left here is different form of God, and right here is praying. And we go to the next slide. We have some temples here. So temples is also a really big thing in India. As I said before, Hinduism is a huge part of India, so there must be a lot of temples. So a temple is basically a house for the gods or for the lords. So it is where people believe that gods come, and people often go to pray there and kind of serve and offer to the gods. And these are just some examples of famous temples in India. And you guys can see that both temples are really, really big and tall, and it's covered in gold coatings, mostly to make it fancy, make it beautiful, make it stand out for the gods. And again, they go there to pray and offer, and it's a really, really huge thing in India. And inside the temple, it looks something like this. They're praying, and then another famous building that I would like to note about India is Taj Mahal. And it is a really, really famous, and it's actually the most famous building in India. And Taj Mahal means the place of the crown. And this is because an emperor built this in memory of his wife's death. And this is basically a place for the emperor's wife. And you guys can see that it's made out of white marble. It's really, really big and beautiful. And marble, again, looks like this on the right bottom. You guys could see that it's basically a white rock, and it's also very smooth. So they used these marbles to carve and build onto the building. And the result is Taj Mahal, which is a building looking like this. Again, it's white and it's made out of marble and it's really, really big and the most famous building in India. And now moving on to the festivals of India. And one really, really famous festival in India is Ganesh Chaturthi, which is again a Hindu festival. Like I said before, Hinduism is a really big part of India. So people often celebrate the coming of the gods. So this celebration and festival is actually celebrating the birth of the god Ganesha. And in this festival, people welcome the god by cleaning the house and offering flowers and grass. So again, this is the statue of the god they're worshiping. And then there are also parades, like you can see on the right. And people often, again, offer flowers. And there are like flower necklaces and flowers around the statue of this god. And here are more pictures of people preparing for the festival, people offering and possibly coloring the statues of the god. You can see there are also like flowers since they offer flowers to this god. And then I like to talk about basic lives in India and just note that India has the highest population in the world and with a whopping 1.43 billion people. And guys could see that it's very, very crowded. Since it has the most population, it has the most people in the country in the world, and it has very crowded streets. You can see in the picture left, it's very crowded. There are a lot of cars and people passing by. And the picture on the right, you can also see that the streets are always full of people. And this again is due to the population. Since it's really, really big, people all tend to gather around in small streets. And also, I would like to note that in India, many people bathe in the Ganges River. And it's a really also famous river in India. And they often go to bathe to they believe that bathing in Ganges River purifies them. It's a common belief in India. So they often go there to take a bath in the river. And this is what it looks like. And then modern cities have also developed in India as well. And the picture here is Mumbai. And it's a really big city in India. And I would like to show you guys a video which kind of overviews and caps everything that I've talked about. So let me quickly share this video. Okay. This is the spiritually and cultures of India. So everything, most of the things that I talked about will be in this video. So I hope you guys enjoy.
I'm in one of the world's oldest living cities. This is Varanasi. It's rightfully called the spiritual capital of India, and central to this city is the mighty Ganges River.
Mother Ganges is one of the holiest river for Hindu religion, and the Hindu people believe that if anyone will have a bathe into the Ganges river, their all sins will wash out. The Hindu people called it Mother Ganges because the mother always take care of their son.
The Ganges is like a lifeline, like an artery of Indian culture. People do their laundry, hotels like clean some of their sheets and hang them up to dry. People wash it, and people are swimming, like doing laps. There's like kids like diving down and looking for coins that have been thrown in for good luck. Coming here and observing how busy the river is, you can see that a lot gets released into it, which probably means it's quite polluted. How do you feel about swimming?
We are talking about the Hindu religion, so we will not believe the Ganges river is polluted. And sometimes the people have a bathe into the river, and the water, they can drink it. This city is dedicated to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is the destroyer of the universe.
So as the city of Lord Shiva, what happens here?
The people are cremated here because we have a 2 cremation ground, and after the cremation, we take the ashes from there and release into the Ganges river. By doing that, we can break the recycle path.
In the West, death is kind of a bit of a taboo subject. We don't talk about it very much, and we certainly don't do our funerals in public.
Actually, we are talking about Hindu religion, so we are performing the cremation in open area so that the people can know about the truth of life.
So going to the cremation ground was really interesting. Thought it might be confronting, seeing, you know, dead bodies being cremated out in the open. And there's no grief, which is really odd for us, right? There's no one crying, there's no one upset. This is a normal part of life. Like, it definitely changes your perspective. And people, they believe in the 5 elements, so it has to be out in the open sky. They have to get a holy fire. They can't bring their own flame. And we met the lady that is the keeper of this holy flame, and it's in her family for generations, and she's pretty fierce, very gentle but pretty fierce. And so we went to her house, and they were like, no, she's not here. Sorry, she's gone away for a few days. And then we asked her son, well, maybe would you explain why people use a special flame? And all of a sudden, this like little boss woman just struts into the room, and we're like, oh no, we're being shut down. We're going to have to leave. We've been inappropriate. And then she like sits on the bed and arranges herself. Why is this one flame so special? Why do people not bring their own fire?
सतयुग से चला आ रहा है कलयुग तक यही से पीढ़ी चली आ रही है.
So it's your job to keep the flame alive.
नहीं, हम लोग कहते हैं कि डरो मत, यही गति तो सबका होगा. उसको तो निश्चित है कि उसको जाना है, वहाँ रहेगा नहीं. हम भी आज या कल जब भी आ जाएगा चले जाएंगे. जिसका अंत हो जैसे भी या जैसे भी मरे.
Oh, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. So I think this is a city where, yeah, while it's about death, this is where you'll learn about life.
Sadhus are one of the holiest person in Hindu religions, and this city is dedicated to Lord Shiva. So they are devotee of Lord Shiva. They are painted their body with the white colors. That is not color. That is the ashes. They took it from the cremation ground. And also, sometimes we can see sadhus having one kind of tobacco. We call it ganja.
Does everyone else smoke, or it's not okay?
Only the sadhus. If anyone others are having ganja in front of the police, they will catch it and send the prison.
I lit my lamp to take it down to the river Ganges and release it to say goodnight and pray. Blessed me with holy water and just disappeared into the crowd. All like in this process of, you know, gratitude for the river. And then they have this festival every night called the Aarti Festival, and the ceremony of saying goodnight to Mother Ganges and thank you for the day, and pretty much we'll see you tomorrow. It's really beautiful, and like we just got swept, like the river. Festival of colour and sound and incense and candles. And it really does overtake you, and you get lost and the hours go by. And I was looking for somewhere to sit, and there was just these beautiful women in very vibrant coloured saris, like a photograph, a postcard. And it was right in the middle of them, and she got part of her sari, and she just laid it over my head, and the whole aarti, which goes for a long time, I was one of them. They just included me. The colours, you want to eat them. They're so juicy, so rich, because it is crazy and full on, and you're walking, you got to watch your step, and then there's these women. And they're so elegant and beautiful, and they're in the most vibrant coloured saris you can ever imagine, and they always look $1 million. I wanted to see the silk being woven. We went to this little part of town, and it was like walking into another country. And there's a Muslim call to prayer, and it's like this soundtrack. Like the little alleyways, and you can hear this gadunk, 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 gadunk. We're kind of getting these little glimpses through these shuttered windows, and we walk through the first door, and I can't even explain the machinery. It's like spider web, you know. It's like it's thinner than my hair. But just seeing it like coming to life, this is more intricate than I could have ever imagined, and I think we take this kind of artisanship for granted. And like one of the strands broke and everything stopped, and the guy immediately went and found which one of the 100 bolts of silk it was coming from, tied it up and continued. We come to another place, and this is where they are making patterns. Cardboard pattern with hole punches in it. To make a beautiful like eagle or a lotus. Then we went around to the next little place, and it was like a pulsing, pumping room. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen, honestly.
Yeah, so that was basically the video of India, and I kind of in that video it talked about the different culture, and you guys could see the basis of Hinduism, and you guys could see people praying outside, and there are a lot of fragrance, and also there are the video contained the Ganges River. Again, that's the place where people bathe in for good luck and kind of washing away their sins. And that is a huge part of India. And I hope you guys had a good sense of what India looks like. And now we're going to be moving on to Thailand. And Thailand, hello in Thai is Swasti. And you guys could see the different pictures here. And I'll again be introducing you guys to each one and showing you guys the language, the culture, the food. And then yeah, where is Thailand? So Thailand is a pretty small land here. It's around 11,028 kilometers away from Ghana. And Ghana is right here, and Thailand is around here. And then a closer picture of what Thailand looks like. It is shaped something like this. And most of it is surrounded by ocean. So ocean is again a big part of Thailand, and many civilizations have been built around it, and there are many elephants, there are many temples, and I'll be introducing you guys to each one. And again, I put pictures on the sides here, and these are people from Thailand, and you guys could observe the traditional clothings as well. So those were the clothings worn by people in Thailand. And yeah, let's start with the language of Thailand. So Thai is the main official language in Thailand, and there may be some other languages which has like combined Chinese with Thai. So there could be some languages that combine Thai with Chinese, but most of them are Thai, and that is the main language in Thailand. And on the bottom here, I showed just different characters and consonants on the right. That is basically the Thai alphabet, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and continues on. And That's how it's written on the left if it forms a word. Yeah, that's what is the written system and also the spoken language of Thailand. Okay, let's get into the food now. So food, again, is, you can see in the middle picture here, it contains a variety of vegetables, proteins, and other kinds of food. And it's really healthy and very tasty. And it's also known for its flavors, as it contains very contrasting flavors, as you'll see in a moment. That's what like the foods in Thailand looks like. And I have a couple examples here. And on the left is Pad Thai, and it is a stir-fried noodles, and it contains shrimps mostly, and bean sprouts, as well as some corianders for the spices. And Pad Thai is very sweet and sour, and it's the contrasting flavor between sweet and sour, which makes this taste good. And it's just noodles with, again, proteins like shrimp and bean sprouts. And on the right, I have a fried rice. It's called khao pat, and it contains a lot of vegetables. So it contains tomatoes, cucumbers, and even pineapples. And then as its main protein, it contains chicken or shrimp. So it is a fried rice that is commonly eaten in Thailand. Uh, those were just the two main foods. And I would like to talk about curries in Thailand, since Thailand is very famous for their curries as well. I said before India is famous for its curries, but Thailand has like a different kind of curry, and each country has their own kind of own type of curries. So I'll be introducing you guys to the Thailand curries, and you guys can choose one. There's red curry, there's yellow curry, and there's green curry. So just you guys can pick one, whichever you guys would like. And red one, as you can see, is a bit more spicy. And yellow is contains more vegetables. And of course, green curry as well contains like green vegetables and kind of lime leaf, and basil gives it the green color. So those were the those are the three main curries, and they are categorized by their colors, red, yellow, and green. And the picture left shows an actual picture of those three curries. And it's again usually served with rice. So you typically eat it with rice. And yeah, those are the three main curries in Thailand. And moving on to the religion. Um, Before I said for India, Hinduism is really famous, but in Thailand, Buddhism is really, really famous. So, 92% of the population is Buddhist. So almost everyone in Thailand is Buddhist. And um, people who are Buddhist does not believe in one God. And Buddhist people believe human life is a part of a suffering, and people have to kind of work towards way of enlightenment. And enlightenment, it's kind of like your knowledge and kind of gaining knowledge of life. So again, Buddhism does not believe in a god. It believes in a person as like a part of one's life, as a part of a suffering, and you have to kind of endure that to reach the state of enlightenment. Again, that's the state of gaining knowledge. So that is a huge part of Buddhism. And the picture shows people praying and kind of people meditating. You'll see that often in Buddhism. And there are also many temples that are based on Buddhism. And because so many people are Buddhist, there are a lot of Buddhist temples in Thailand. And I've on the left here is Wat Phra Kill, and on the right here is Wat Phra Tat Doi Suth. and I can't pronounce that well, but there are just these examples of temples. And again, like with Indian temples, these Taiwanese temples are also like covered in gold. So that is a huge thing in temples. They're usually covered in gold since gold kind of represents wealth and it kind of invites the god and it suits the right place. And again, Buddhism does not believe in any gods. So what they do in this temple is many people come to meditate. So they kind of sit down and kind of think about their lives and kind of think about the ways of getting enlightenment. And instead of a god, there is usually a big statue of a Buddha. And Buddha was a person who was enlightened in the past. So people often come to ask and pray for Buddha as well. So pictures here shows people meditating and praying for Buddha. And again, it's a really big part of Thailand since 90%, 92% of population is Buddhist. And okay, so now let's talk about some festivals and celebrations in Thailand. So Songkran is a really famous festival in Thailand, and it's a festival that celebrates the Thai New Year, which is April 13th. So every year on April 13th, they have this festival, and what this festival is they kind of spray water into each other. So on the right here is people having like a water gun and shooting each other and kind of like spraying water on each other. And on the left here is kind of like people washing their hands with water. And people believe that they spray water to kind of wash away their previous years and getting ready for the new year. So people wash their bodies off to kind of clear off the previous years and getting themselves ready for the new year. And yeah, the picture right again shows people kind of shooting water at each other, and it's kind of their way to wash their previous years. And then another festival in Thailand is called the Bun Bang Phai Rocket Festival. And basically, this festival takes place during spring and it kind of shoots the rockets to the sky. And by shooting a rocket to the sky, they're kind of requesting the rain gods for a good rain. So this occurs during the spring season because that is the place, the time where a lot of rain is to be expected. So just in case it doesn't rain, they are basically sending a message to the rain gods to ask them for during the spring to rain. And the picture shows people just shooting the rockets, and then on the left is just a big kind of like a boat carrying the rocket, kind of readying it, preparing it for it to shoot. And I have this really short video which kind of shoots, kind of like demonstrates the shooting of the rocket of this festival.
เจ็บจริงเจ็บจริงเจ็บใจมันเจ็บในไหนเมื่อหัวใจโดนหลอกอกเอ๋ยอกหนุ่มบ้านนอกเมื่อเข้ามาถึงบางกอกมาถูกเขาหลอกมันเจ็บใจ เห็นครับเห็นตาเต็มทีค่อยเป็นที่นี่ด้วยความดีใจผู้คนและเดินมาควักไฟเมื่อเข้าทางไหนเลยเพียงลมมิลิน หมดเงินหมดจ้อยหมดไปสิเฮ็ดจังใดข่อยก็พูดบ่ออกเพราะเราเป็นคนบ้านนอกเข้ามาบางกอกมาโดนเขาหลอกมันเจ็บใจ
Yeah, that was one of the biggest festivals in Thailand. It's the Rocket Festival, and you guys could see they're preparing the rockets and getting it ready to shoot to the sky. And there are again also competitions. They compete with each other to compare who can shoot the rocket the furthest and the longest. So it's a really big festival in Thailand. Okay, so briefly talking about the life in Thailand, it's a long time ago. They used to travel by elephants. So there, I have this picture here. People are riding on elephants. Not sure if elephants are in the area of where you guys live, but people often rode elephants in the past, and some people still do ride elephants as a transportation method. And yeah, there are also like seats on top and giving people rides on the elephants. So that is a really cool thing that was in Thailand. And it still continues today. And you guys, when you go to Thailand, maybe you'll have a chance to ride on the elephants. And then now, I would like to quickly talk about the water market. So water market is really famous in Thailand. If there was a Ganges River in India, there is the water market in Thailand. So this is a market on water. It's like literally a market that is taking place above water. So people often have their boats and people often like buy off their boats. So let's say one boat can be full of fruits and pineapples, mangoes, and they go around selling their fruits to others while still being on the boat. So on the left here, again, people selling fruits to each other. And there you can see that people, all of them are on top of boats. And that is how they would treat it, like how they traded back in a long time ago in Thailand, but it still continues as a culture today. And I have this video here which explains what Thailand looked like when it's in the floating market.
Dude, the thing that always like trips me out about snakes is how cold they are.
What's up guys? Today I'm with my buddy Mark Weens.
Hey guys.
Who you might recognize from eating something crazy on YouTube.
Today we're at Damnan Saduak Market, which is one of the busiest floating markets in Thailand. We're here to eat some incredibly delicious food.
Oh yes we are, let's do it man. This floating market is about 2 hours west of the city, but it's a unique experience that you need to try when coming to Bangkok. It's basically a system of canals that have been converted into a giant marketplace with loads of souvenir shops and floating restaurants. We paid 400 baht for a 1-hour private boat ride.
Alright, getting on the boat here.
Which we were quickly bombarded by vendors, mostly older women, pulling up to our boat while cooking something delicious.
If you're craving some fried chicken, that is your lady.
Oh, that's what we heard sizzling.
I hear some sizzle. Same with the banana lady.
Yes, this place is very touristy.
What is it, 9:30 a.m. now?
Probably.
Something like 9:30 in the morning, but it's getting really crowded already.
Traffic boat jam has started.
But as I've told you a million times, things are touristy for a reason, because they're that amazing to visit. Mark and I brought our appetites, and we are ready to eat.
First meal of the day, we are getting mango sticky rice, which might be one of the more touristy things to get, but honestly, it's one of the best, I think.
No, it's even popular local. Local people love mango sticky rice too. It's a type of rice. It's a glutinous rice, and it's more sticky than regular jasmine rice. They add extra coconut milk, and the coconut milk that they add on top, that should not.
Okay, we just crashed.
We just crashed mid-speech.
Did you feel that? You crashed.
Cheers.
Man, it melts in your mouth, that mango.
The mango just gushes with juice. And what's amazing about the mango is that there's no strings in it at all.
Right.
It's just like purely like silky.
We are off to seek out the next dish.
It looks like we're going against traffic.
We're trying to find a noodle lady. And we can't get over to the other side. Oh yeah, Mark also speaks Thai.
This is called kway teow mu. It's pork noodles. We got senlek. It's the type of rice noodle. She adds in the soup. You can see some pork in there. You can see some tofu. She adds in a little bit of dried chili, a little sprinkle of peanuts in there. There's some meatballs, and then also some radish.
A little behind the scenes, guys, it's really challenging to film a video while on a boat, especially when you're getting bumped by tourists every 5 seconds.
By the traffic jam.
So we're doing our best here.
Pretty tasty.
Man, spicy, love it. We got yelled at for sitting too long.
We're causing a traffic jam. Eating while you're floating is also a great thing to do.
To cap off our food binge, we came across this lady.
We have saku, which is this snack here, which is some kind of a starch, like tapioca starch or something, filled with, it might be a little bit of minced meat, but also radish. And then we also have kampakmo, which is like a pan snack or something. Anyway, she makes that batter. It's like a tapioca starch.
All right, this boat is super rocky. We're gonna have to use our fingers, not chopsticks.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Super gooey.
That contrast between the sweet and the salty.
Guys, this market is truly the definition of awesome in my book.
All right, Drew, that has been a lot of
Yeah, that was the floating market, and it's really, really interesting since it is a market on top of water again. And you guys could see those two people were kind of going across and buying different foods and different stuffs from other people in the boat. And that is a really common thing in Thailand. It's a really famous tourist place too. So, also just briefly talking about the nature, Thailand has one of the most beautiful natures since again, it's along the ocean, which makes the nature beautiful. And a lot of its famous places are around the bay areas. And you guys could see the clear oceans. And then on the right, in the middle of the forest, it's also very beautiful. And those are just some places in Thailand which you should visit. And then, yeah, that was it about Thailand. So again, I hope you guys learned something from Thailand. And it's a really beautiful place, in my opinion. So, okay. So now we're going to be moving on to our final country, which is Vietnam. And hello in Vietnamese is Xin chào. And I have a couple of pictures here. And again, this is covering everything in Vietnam. Not everything, but most of the parts. So I'll get into the language, the food, the usual stuff, the religion, and the places to visit. And Vietnam is also a really good place. And where is Vietnam? And it's around here in the world map. And Ghana is around here. So it's 11,421 kilometers away from Ghana. And you can see both where they are located. Okay. If you get a closer look, it's again by the ocean. So a lot of famous places are around the ocean, and it's quite slim, making it the shape of J, sort of. And then there are also a lot of temples and nature that is related to Vietnam. Okay, let's start with the language. So Vietnamese is the main official language in Vietnam. And you guys could see on the right picture, that is the Vietnamese alphabet. And you can tell that many of Vietnamese like written system is really similar to English. It's almost the exact same with the alphabet, but with the add of some accents. So it does use the English syllables, but it contains different pronunciations and some different tones. So tone is very important in Vietnamese language. And some tones you have to kind of raise your voice, some tones you have to make it sharp, and it makes its unique language, and it's called Vietnamese. That's what it looks like. And then let's get into the food. Okay, food in Vietnam has amazing taste. It has really unique flavors, and it's also healthy. So this is a typical Vietnamese, I guess, like a table full of food. And of course, you could see the various amounts of vegetables as well as other proteins. And yeah, let's get into each one of them. And on the left here is bun cha, and it is grilled pork with noodles. And on the right here shows goichon, which is some sort of like a vegetable and protein roll. So it contains vegetables and shrimps, and it's wrapped around in this rice roll. And I'll talk about these rice later, since there are also rice noodles. So these are basically like wraps made out of rice rolls, and inside it contains shrimps and vegetables. And people dip it into this sauce, and it's a peanut sauce, and it's very good. I've tried it before, and it's really, really good. And then if you're in Vietnam, you can't forget about pho. And pho is very famous dish, and it's actually the most famous dish in Vietnam. And pho is a rice noodle soup containing meats and other herbs. And rice noodles look something like this. It's not the typical noodles. And rice noodles are made out of rice. So they are, it's a really unique thing, unique noodles in Vietnam, since they are really famous for their rice noodles instead of regular noodles. And then on the picture in the middle is pho, like I talked about before, rice noodle soup. And again, picture on the right is a different type containing the different meats and herbs. And again, a lot of herbs are used like corianders, and it looks really delicious. And then let's briefly talk about the religion as well. But Vietnam is not as religious as previously mentioned countries. So many of Vietnamese people does not believe in any sort of religion. Statistically, around like I believe 60% of the population does not believe in any religion. So it's less religious than the previous countries like India and Thailand. Um, India was famous for Hinduism, Thailand was famous for Buddhism, but Vietnam is not as religious. But many people still believe in the three teachings. The three teachings are Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Um, Basically, you do not need to know a lot about those. Taoism and Confucianism is basically just about respecting elders. Those are just teachings about respecting other people and respecting especially the older people, like your parents and teachers. And that's the idea behind Confucianism. And not a lot of like temples were built just because it's not as religious as other countries, but there are still a lot of famous temples in Vietnam. So picture on the left is a temple of literature, and it's a really famous temple in Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam, and it's designated for Confucius, which who developed the teaching of Confucianism. and that is designated for Confucius himself. And it's a really beautiful place. And on the right here is another temple, and it's one of the earliest Buddhist temples. And you guys could see that it has this small temple here. And those are just some examples of Vietnamese temples. I would like to quickly talk about the clothes, since clothes are really important part about Vietnam. So clothes, the traditional clothes in Vietnam is called áo dai, and it is a colorful silk tunic worn both by male and female. On the left here, you have the female áo dai, and on the middle it has the males, and on the right shows possibly a wedding picture, both the male and the female wearing this colorful silk tunic. And another thing to note is that if you guys could see closely on the picture far left, the woman is wearing a hat, and it's a really common hat in Vietnam, and it's actually the traditional hat, and it's kind of like a cone-shaped hat that is worn by a lot of people in Vietnam. So I would like to quickly note that as a really famous hat and a traditional hat. Okay, that's it for the clothes. And now talking about the cities and towns. This is what really makes Vietnam stand out from other countries, in my opinion. It's not famous for its religious beliefs. It's more famous for its cities and towns. So again, Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam, and it's actually a very old city. And there were many narrow streets for trades, but now it's more of like a tourist attraction. So picture in the left just shows the broad view of Hanoi, and on the right is the more important one. On the right shows a railway track with different cafes on the left. So this is a really famous tourist attraction in Vietnam, in Hanoi. And you can see how narrow the street is. And an actual train passes by in the street, which sounds crazy, but it's true. Um, every couple hours, the train passes by, and people have to get out of the way of the train since it's a really narrow street. And when the train passes by, people have to stand aside, and then, but still, many people go here. And on the side, there are a lot of cafes, there are a lot of restaurants on the side as well. So when the train passes by, people on the left often take pictures themselves passing by the train. And yeah, that's a really cool thing about Hanoi. It's a really old, but it still contains like the traditional feel of what Vietnam was in the past. And then another beautiful ancient town is called Hoi An, and it's also a very old city, and it's famous for the architecture. So on the right and on the left, what am I? Those pictures kind of show like beautiful architecture. Um, wait, you don't say. Um, are they like standing up for something, or um,
Baby, nothing is wrong. They are trying to sleep.
oh, they're trying
Nothing
to
is
sleep?
wrong, baby, so you can continue.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Those are just the pictures. You guys can take a closer look. Um, on the right, it has a beautiful structure, and its architecture is the most well known. And on the left, here is a lantern festival, which I'll talk about that in the next slide. It's a really beautiful lantern festival, and um, it's a lantern festival that takes place in Hoi An, and it's takes place around 6 to 9 p.m. It's really late at night, and people make lanterns to make their wishes, and they also ride in boats. So, just along the shores of Hoi An is a river, and people often make their lanterns and make them float on the rivers, and people often ride their boats to kind of go get a tour of Hoi An. And the lanterns, again, are very beautiful. The picture on the left here shows the street of this ancient town. And on the right are the lanterns on the river. It's a really beautiful place. You guys could just take a look real quick, and then yeah, now talking about also the nature of Vietnam. So Vietnam is especially near the ocean, again, shows a magnificent sight. And Ha Long Bay is actually one of the most famous places in Vietnam since it's well known for its nature. And you guys could see the beautiful ocean. And there are a lot of islands in Vietnam as well. So those are just some islands that can be viewed from the bay. And a lot of oceans are visible as well. The color of the ocean is bright green and turquoise color, and it's a really beautiful place. And I would like to end this country of Vietnam with this video. And in this video, this person explains
If you're
the
looking
best
for an
things to do in Vietnam. So yeah.
Airbnb you love, just look for an Airbnb other guests have loved.
Hey guys.
So they are going to be introducing 5 best things and places that you should go in Vietnam, and they're going to be showing just different places and beautiful places in Vietnam. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Guys, we're Lloyd and Mandy. We're digital nomads currently traveling the world in search of the power. We're going to share with you our top 5 places we think are worth visiting.
One of our favourite parts about Saigon is the nightlife, and mainly Boi Vien Walking Street. This city really comes alive at night, but especially the walking street. Get a lot of crowds there. There's plenty of places to go and sit and eat and actually watch people walking by. It can get pretty crowded at night, so make sure you get there early and get a good spot. We stayed in District 1, which has its own walking street called Nguyen Hue Walking Street. They seem to put on a concert there every night of the week. It can get loud, but the hotel usually is quiet at night, so we didn't have any problems. Fly into, it will give you the cheapest prices if you're flying from any other city in the world. You're going to want to fly into Ho Chi Minh City. One thing that really took us by surprise when we got here was the massive European or French influence that we noticed in not only the buildings but just the cafe and bakery and food culture. There's tons of shopping to be done here with a lot of shopping malls. There's plenty of different districts to check out, including Chinatown and Koreatown. But as we mentioned, if you're going to stay in Saigon, we suggest staying in District 1. It's the easiest, most central place to get around. There's plenty of restaurants. We actually did a food tour by scooter, which we think is a must. If we hadn't have done this food tour, we probably wouldn't have seen the rest of Saigon that there was to see. We'll put the link in the description below, but definitely recommend doing the food tour and starting your trip in Saigon.
This was a really highly recommended place for us to visit, and I totally understood why. When we first pulled up, I sort of got a bit of a Bali feel from the place. There was really nice rice terraces at the hotel that we were staying at. The weather, it was very hot during the day there, but it was a little bit quiet. So there wasn't a whole lot to do during the day, but there was plenty of restaurants and cafes and things around to keep us entertained while it was hot and keep us out of the sun. There also is a really nice beach there. So if you're a beach person, person. There's also that to do during the day. This place really, like everywhere else in Vietnam, comes alive at night. We had such a good time. We paid to get on a boat. I believe we paid about 50,000 dong each to ride the boat, but worth getting on the boat at sunset. All the lanterns make this place look absolutely stunning. There's so many boats. I believe the ride was about 20 minutes, and it was really dreamy, and we just had a really good time and really enjoyed just looking at the lights and the bridge itself there. It got really busy and was just a really good vibe.
Halong Bay is located in the northeast of Vietnam. It's actually only about a 3-hour drive from Hanoi. We would recommend spending at least 2 nights in Halong Bay and taking one of the junk boat tours. I was a bit skeptical about going to Halong Bay at first because it is such a big tourist destination. When you get to Hanoi or even Saigon, you will see signs everywhere for Halong Bay tours, and there are hundreds of boats that run tours around the area, but it's well worth it. There is a massive bay with thousands of islands with rainforests coming out the top of them and tiny little beaches. We couldn't believe actually how beautiful the scenery was there. All of the islands have huge green cliffs, and it's really a one-of-a-kind experience. We took a specific cruise called the Paradise Elegance, which we would recommend. It was a 5-star boat and the service was second to none. We'll put the link in the description below. But if you're going to do any kind of tourist tour in Vietnam, definitely recommend Halong Bay and definitely recommend doing a boat tour. There's also plenty of kayaking you can do and squid fishing at night if that's your kind of thing, or if you prefer to just stay on the boat and soak in the scenery, we recommend doing that too.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you, like 2 lines of
Sapa was such a beautiful experience. I was very happy that we did this. It took about 6 hours on a sleeper bus for us to arrive from Hanoi to Sapa, but it was absolutely worth it. Even the drive there was really dreamy. You drive up through the mountains and it's very green and lush and misty, and the change in temperature was absolutely beautiful. It was the perfect temperature when we arrived. A little bit cooler, I'd say maybe closer to around like 20 degrees Celsius, maybe a little bit more than that, but it was really, really nice and just nice change from the rest of Vietnam. The town itself was really dreamy, and how everyone was dressed was so beautiful, and you have to see the outfit and they're very beautiful. So one of the main ethnic groups that reside in Sapa are the Hmong, and the traditional outfits that you see there are influenced by that. There were so many different shops that had these outfits for sale. Personally, I wanted to buy one. If I had the space in my suitcase, I totally would. Sapa can be a little bit touristy, so it's kind of important to go off the beaten path a little bit and find the restaurants that aren't too expensive. That being said, we did do one of the famous hot pots there, which seemed to be the thing to do, and it was awesome. We really enjoyed it, even though we had no idea what we were doing. It was very delicious and a beautiful view from the restaurant. A lot of the restaurants have multiple levels. We sat up on the 4th floor overlooking the city center, and it was really nice. Can be a bit expensive there, but I think it's worth it for the scenery. We stayed at Hotel de la Coupole, and it was a dream. That hotel should be much more expensive than it is. It's higher end for Vietnam, but the value that you get out of it, we've actually done a full tour on that hotel. If you'd like to see it, we will link it above. But there's also plenty that you can do in and around the city. There's the train that actually leaves from the hotel that we stayed at that takes you to the famous cable car, as well as the gardens that are up in the mountains. Worth doing that during the day. We didn't do the cable car because it was a bit expensive, but even the train up there was stunning. The views were beautiful. But we also recommend taking the time to go to Cat Cat Village, which is like something out of a fairy tale. It's a slight hike down to Cat Cat Village itself, and I believe it was 90 dong per person for a ticket to get in, but it was absolutely worth it. It was so beautiful, really, really cool. It was a highlight of our trip heading down there and seeing this fairy tale like village. We did visit during summer, but it actually does snow there during winter, which is kind of surprising. It didn't feel like the buildings were insulated or built for snow, but I feel like that would be a really cool experience to visit during winter.
This city is a must-visit destination. It's the capital city of Vietnam, and it's Hanoi. This is probably where you'll find most expats. It has a much more traditional Vietnamese feel than Saigon. The main attraction you want to visit while you're in Hanoi is Train Street. There's a street that is literally on the train tracks, and there's cafes and bars and restaurants lined up alongside the train tracks. And about every 2 hours, a train will run straight through this street, and everyone will pack up their chairs and move off the tracks, and you literally just be sitting there watching this passenger train go by, and it's really a one-of-a-kind experience. We loved it. It is a little bit of a touristy thing to do, but definitely go and check it out. If you're going to be visiting Hanoi, we definitely recommend staying in the Old Quarter. We found that Hanoi was probably the easiest place to meet other people. In fact, every time we went out, we managed to run into other expats and sat down and had a beer with them and had a chat. Best place to do that was a place, it's actually called Beer Corner, believe it or not, and it's an intersection in the middle of the Old Quarter that gets shut down after 10 p.m. There's no cars or bikes allowed, and they just put chairs out on the street and everyone sits around drinking beers, having fun. You do have to cheers in Vietnam before drinking a beer, and some really unique food in Hanoi. This is actually the place where it's very well known to eat a live beating snake heart, which we didn't end up doing, was just a little bit too much for us. But there is a lot of unique food in Hanoi, and we found it was probably the #1 place to visit in Vietnam. It's also a good mix of traditional Vietnamese bars and restaurants and a lot of modern bars as well. There's plenty of rooftop bars in the Old Quarter. We visited a local jazz bar, and we also found ourselves in an underground secret bar which we needed a password to get into, which was pretty cool. The best thing about Hanoi for us was the street food scene. As soon as we walked out of our hotel, we could walk in any direction and we knew we were going to get some great food, so that was probably the #1 thing for us there.
There were a few places that we didn't have the time to visit because we only had a 30-day visa, so there were a few that were recommended to us. One being Hue was very high on the list that we didn't have time to get to, and Ninh Binh was the other one we would have loved to visit. Let us know down in the comments if you...
Yeah, those were basically the 5 best places that you should know in Vietnam. And if you want to go, those are the places that you would want to visit, since it's a really beautiful place. All of them that I agree with. And yeah, those were all the things in Vietnam. And yeah, I'll just like to quickly go over the 3 countries. This picture here, yeah. Again, India is over here. We learned about India today, and we also learned about Thailand, which is around here in Asia. And finally, we learned about Vietnam, which is along the bay over here. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Do you guys have any questions? Yes. Hello?
Yeah. Yes. Some of the students want to know the meaning of reincarnation. Reincarnation. Are you hearing me?
Oh, reincarnation?
Yeah.
Okay, so the definition of reincarnation is basically you're rebirthing. So you're being born in a different body. So after you die, your soul becomes a part of another body. So that's their belief. They believe that people, when they die, they're born into a different body. So that's what they believe in. And that is reincarnation. So
Think that reincarnation means when you die, you believe that you born in the world. You come back again, that's what like the same place. That's the new. Yeah, that was all right, so any other question? Okay, Kevin, I have a question for you myself. I learned that in Vietnam, they usually ride motorcycles. And I learned that it's also compulsory for everyone to know how to ride motorcycles. Is that true?
sorry, I can't hear you very well. So
Yeah, I was saying that in Vietnam, I learned that it's compulsory for everyone to know how to ride motorcycles because they use a lot of motorcycles. So I want to find out that is it compulsory that you have to know how to ride motorcycles before you can live in that country? You get
sorry, it's cutting out. Are you saying something about motorcycles and how they're
in yeah, I'm talking about motorcycles in Vietnam.
in
In
Vietnam?
Vietnam.
Oh yeah, that is true that a lot of people ride in motorcycles as their common um transportation method since I think in Vietnam a lot of people use motorcycles, but there are still cars. People often travel by cars, but yeah, I think motorcycles are very common. Oh, okay. Oh, I would say it's not. I'm not quite sure, but it's not compulsory to know how to ride motorcycles in Vietnam. I think in the video there were a lot of motorcycles, but um, it's not necessary by any means. Um, there are still people who travel by cars, or there still are a lot of people who just walk, and there are also taxis, cars, and other vehicles. So it's not required to know how to ride motorcycles in Vietnam. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes. That was my question. Okay. Thank you for that. All right, any other question? No question. Okay, David.
Okay.
I think there is no other question.
Yeah, so I'll be just posting a video so on my YouTube page. So if you guys want to watch it again, you can yeah, go to my YouTube page and click the video. And yeah, next week
All right.
we're going to be talking about I think African and Australian culture. So those are the two continents that we're going to be talking about next week. So, okay, yeah, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week, and yeah.